Recently I saw this really cool video from Hbomb which showed that dart monkeys can beat the hardest game mode in all of Bloons Tower Defense 6, CHIMPS mode. For those of you unaware, playing on this mode forces you to adhere to several restricting rules, including the fact that you're not allowed to farm or use any sort of income generation beyond what you can earn from popping the balloons. If you fail once, you have to restart from round 1 no matter how far you get. Even if you made it to round 100, it wouldn't matter. You're starting from round 1 and doing it all over again. And it's pretty easy to fail considering that you only get one life to work with. And you also can't use any monkey knowledge you've unlocked in the game, you can't use any powers, and to top it all off, once you place down a tower, it can never be sold. Oh, you just needed a couple more thousand to afford a 5th tier and then you can pass round 97? Too bad, buddy, you're stuck with whatever you have to work with. So yeah, needless to say, this mode takes a lot of strategy, and the fact that dart monkeys can beat it entirely on their own was pretty impressive to me, and I was not alone on this thought, with the top comment on this video saying, "Absolutely wild how the dart monkey is unironically one of the best towers in the game, can't beat the original I guess." And this got me thinking, if the dart monkey can hold up to the most complex Bloons game ever made, how does it perform in its original landscape? You see, the dart monkey is one of the 5 towers that has been in every single Bloons Tower Defense, starting with the first game in 2007. And that's where our journey will begin in this video, seeing how far dart monkeys can make it in each of the first 5 Bloons Tower Defense games by themselves on the highest difficulty available in that respective game. Although in the first game, we don't even get a choice of difficulty. You had one map, one difficulty, 50 rounds, and the strongest balloons were black and white balloons back then. Now, I'm not going to try building suspense by pretending that dart monkeys can't beat this game. Some of you are likely to know that the dart monkey is completely overpowered in Bloons Tower Defense 1, to the point where Ninja Kiwi themselves designed the second game specifically to change that. But as far as this one goes, it's quite easy for dart monkeys to win on their own. And if you want to watch the full video for this run, or any of the runs I complete during this video, they will all be linked in the description below. Now the second game is a completely different story, because like I just said, Ninja Kiwi designed this game in a way that forces players to use other towers besides the dart monkey, or at least one other tower, because this is when they introduced the lead balloon. Now in the later games, it is possible for dart monkeys to pop lead, but in BTD 2, that is simply not a thing. The only upgrades you have are tier 1 for each path, which give extra range and extra pierce. As you might imagine, this game doesn't let you buy the explosive dart upgrade that is present in the 5th game. In fact, you literally cannot pop lead balloons without using the bomb tower. It's not possible. Unless there is some sort of glitch that I don't know about, you simply cannot beat this game without at least using one bomb tower with all of your dart monkeys. I did want to try getting at least as far as possible though, so what I figured I would do is just buy a bomb tower every time there were leads and then sell it immediately after. That way, it wasn't really going to get a chance to pop anything other than the lead balloons at least, so it would be as close as possible. But what I didn't anticipate is that just getting past the early rounds would actually be a real challenge in this game. Unlike the first game, we can actually choose hard mode now, and this game has a unique system where each difficulty locks you to a certain map. So when I chose hard mode, this map actually had 2 different paths for the balloons, and I was really struggling. Right there, I just failed on round 10. This kind of felt like a bad omen, because there are still 40 more rounds to make it through, and I wasn't even close, let alone the fact that I never even faced a lead balloon yet. I tried a couple more times and ultimately decided that upgrading the monkeys at first isn't worthwhile because you need as much of the map covered as possible. Additionally, the long range upgrade can actually make them more prone to missing because when they try to shoot balloons that are further away from them, they really have a slow projectile and a lot of times it just doesn't actually reach them and instead goes behind them. I've seen this even happen with red balloons, which are the slowest in the entire game. So, I figured it was only worth getting long range on the dart monkeys that are near their exit, so they could catch a few extra balloons before they escape. Buying extra pierce definitely does become worthwhile once you get past like round 5, because the balloons will be stacked on top of each other enough for the majority of your shots to pop 2 balloons instead of just 1, which is what this upgrade allows for. And this upgrade is cheaper than buying a new dart monkey would be, so as long as the majority of your shots are actually getting 2 pierce, this is a worthwhile upgrade to get. That's why I tried to wait a little bit on it. This was my basic strategy, but I did all of this just to fail on round 11 instead of round 10. The next thing I tried doing was actually using a glitch where you can place towers directly onto the track. By right clicking and then left clicking where you want the tower to go, it can be placed in any illegal spot that you want. This time, I did upgrade the first monkey I put down, but it seemed to be working pretty well in its new spot, because having longer range would allow it to handle the other path of balloons much more easily as well, and of course the extra pierce was not going to hurt. I figured that if the monkeys were directly on top of the track, they would at least have a harder time missing the balloons. Eventually, I did get to face the first lead balloon finally, and I had to sell a dart monkey just to afford the bomb tower that's necessary to pop it. Then, I failed to sell the bomb tower in time, and it probably did pop a few other balloons as well. But this didn't really matter in the end, because I still failed on round 22 anyways. I decided to quit here, because it's not even possible for dart monkeys to beat this game without the bomb tower, and I really don't want to be stuck on the second game when we still have 3 more to cover. I did put the rounds for the first and second game into Google Sheets, and was surprised to see the first 15 rounds of Bloons Tower Defense 2 actually has less balloons than the first game, and I don't think the dart monkey got nerfed either, so I guess the map really makes that much of a difference. The third game is where things get more interesting. It is technically possible for dart monkeys to beat Bloons Tower Defense 3 without any other towers, but this gets a massive asterisk, because it's not possible yet for dart monkeys to pop lead balloons. Instead, it's only possible without other towers because the game added a new road item, exploding pineapples. Using these for the lead balloons would make it possible, in theory, for dart monkeys to deal with everything else, but in practice, that's a different story. Things did start off a lot better than they did in the second game, probably because Bloons Tower Defense 3 was the first game to introduce a system where you actually choose the map and then choose the difficulty, allowing me to pick an easy map before choosing hard difficulty. So, I wasn't locked to a map with 2 different paths. However, I knew that one thing would be very different. The fact that this game is the first game to introduce the Moab as well. Popping that with only dart monkeys wasn't going to be very easy, because it takes 162 hits just to pop it down into 4 ceramics, and each dart monkey can still only do 1 damage per shot in this game. Now, Bloons Tower Defense 3 did introduce tier 2 upgrades for each path, but as you might have guessed, they just give you more range and more pierce. Their projectiles are still pretty slow, so having an even bigger range definitely doesn't help that much, and having 3 pierce is pretty useful for the balloons, but it doesn't mean you get to do 3 damage per shot, just that you can damage up to 3 balloons with a damage value of 1 per shot. So yeah, I was probably going to have to spam a bunch of unupgraded dart monkeys at some point to prepare for that Moab, but on round 20, there were 5 leads instead of 1. But they actually weren't that bad to deal with, because I did use the glue to slow them down and then a pineapple to pop them all into black balloons. However, things would not remain so smooth, and I ended up failing on round 33. But unlike with the first 2 games, I actually played this one as a young kid, mostly because our dinosaur of a computer couldn't even handle the 4th game, but that's another story. My point is, I did have experience with this game, and I wanted to at least try proving to myself that I could figure this one out. I came up with a basic strategy that did get me to the Moab on round 37 by having several dart monkeys at the beginning of the track targeted to last, which you can actually do for the first time in this game, setting target priority. A lot of the lower class balloons can be destroyed really early on in the track. This is sort of similar to how players will use the 3rd and 4th tier spike-a-pult monkeys that you get access to in the later games, but the only difference is that those are a whole lot more effective. So I replaced quality with quantity and spammed a bunch of these down, 6 of them in fact, but this was working out pretty well for me. With the rest of my monkeys, I just tried to place each one in a spot where multiple parts of the tracks loop around it, so that way, when I upgrade its pierce, it will be able to shred through balloons close to it and the balloons that are on the track behind the one that it's aiming for. That was working until I had to face the Moab. It did end up getting popped, the Moab balloon, but the ceramic balloons also take 10 hits to pop each, so by the time the dart monkeys popped those 4 ceramics down into rainbow balloons, they had simply made it too far in the track to be stopped. The next thing I tried to do is find a few more relatively straight lines on the map where I could place a dart monkey down, target it to last, and have it shoot down that line without its targeting going too far and reaching to a part of the track that I didn't want it to aim for. Because the thing about setting your targeting to last is that, for example, this dart monkey, if it had been too far to the left, it would have been targeting that piece of track at the beginning instead of shooting down the line that I wanted it to. So there's only so many spots you can do this, but I figured having them all at the very beginning of the map was probably not the most efficient way to do it, and ultimately what I needed to do here was try to save up as much money as I could, so that way I could afford some 0-0 dart monkeys and hopefully get more total shots on the Moab, pop it down, and then be able to pop the ceramics in time. This was actually going pretty well up to a certain point. I was managing to hold off all the balloons with my defenses and save up money, but then I got a little carried away with the amount of 0-0 dart monkeys that I placed at the beginning of the track, and this led to me succumbing to the lead balloons on round 26 because of the fact that I didn't have enough firepower at the end of the track anymore. After that embarrassment, I just decided to play the way I was before, where I at least managed to reach the Moab, and I would try to save up some money for the round where it comes out as well, so that way I could buy more monkeys at the beginning of the track then. I managed to play well enough where I did have about 2,000 saved up when I got to round 37, but even when I used all that money to purchase dart monkeys at the beginning, the Moab still took too long to pop, and the dart monkeys at the end just couldn't quite catch everything. This was my best run as well, and I know that a better player could definitely accomplish this, but at this point in the video, I decided it was time to move on to the fourth game so things wouldn't take too long. Bloons Tower Defense 4 is an interesting case. Unlike any of the other games, all of your upgrades are put onto one path, and because there are 4 of these upgrades, people like to say this is the first game with 4th tier upgrades, but in reality, the first 2 for the Dart Monkey are just extra range and extra pierce, which are both tier 1 upgrades in all the other games. So in reality, it's more like having the order in which you upgrade your tower be more restricted, because you have to buy one upgrade before the other. One thing that is nice though is, just as you can see, once you have bought extra range, the 3rd level is actually a spike-a-pole. This is the first game that combines that tower with the Dart Monkey instead of having them be 2 separate ones. So my strategy from before of having a bunch of Dart Monkeys lined up and trying to have them shred all the balloons by being targeted to last will become a lot more effective now that I can use this tower instead, since it is a Dart Monkey now. There's also a spot right here on this track that's pretty perfect to put one of these down. Unfortunately though, the 4th level does not give a Juggernaut like it does in the later games, but instead it will just turn it into 3 spike-a-poles instead of 1, which isn't really effective for this strategy because you're not shredding extra balloons when you're shooting down the lane, but you guys will see just how powerful this thing actually is and how far the spike ball can travel. And yeah, check that out. That thing is absolutely awesome compared to what we had before at least. Definitely feels like a huge upgrade. But one thing we can't do is, because we don't have that Juggernaut, we still cannot pop lead balloons with the Dart Monkey, which is definitely going to be a little bit inconvenient. We still have to use road items after all of these games, because I don't know, I guess Ninja Kiwi just didn't want the Dart Monkey to be very good after it was so powerful in the first game. They had to make it so that this tower could not beat the other games on its own. It had to be pretty much impossible for it. So yeah, it's still going to be necessary to try to glue the leads and then bomb it with the pineapple. We know how that's going for me thus far, but I'll definitely give it a try at least here. Now, I am a little worried because this game is kind of notorious for being more difficult. Don't get me wrong, the 6th one is more complex at higher levels, but hard mode in this game really is hard. For the first time, we actually have to deal with 75 rounds instead of just 50, and this game also introduced the BFB for the first time as well. So yeah, this should be interesting. Being locked into one upgrade path was also pretty annoying when it came to trying to set up the spike-a-poles. Because I was forced to upgrade the range before getting a spike-a-pole now, I couldn't see exactly how far the monkey's range was actually going to be when I was trying to place it down. So like with this one, now I can see a bit of the other track, which wouldn't have been possible if I could have just bought the spike-a-pole upgrade without having to upgrade the range. Round 24 is when I got reminded that this game is also the first to introduce camo balloons, and unlike the 5th and 6th games, Dart Monkeys have no upgrades that allow them to pop those. So now, I would have to use road items to stop them along with the leads. At this point, I just want to say, yes, the concept of this video was ridiculous. Something that hasn't been possible in 3 out of 4 games so far, I'm still sitting here testing. Don't ask me why I decided to do such a thing. On round 33, I got reminded of something pretty weird about this game, which is the fact that camo balloons, unlike the later games, do not have multiple layers that are camo. Instead, they're just balloons that contain 2 pink balloons, and once you pop the first layer, everything else will be decamoed. So right here you can see a chain reaction can get started where you pop a few of them, and then the projectiles will hit the other balloons, then those can be popped, and eventually you end up hitting everything. But when I ultimately failed on round 39, I came to the conclusion that every time I was trying to separate the lead balloons from the rest of the balloons with glue, I was inevitably affecting some of the other balloons as well. And that would only get worse in the later rounds as the balloons continue to be more layered, as more camos continue to come out. And so with my tail between my legs, I moved on to the 5th game, where I now desperately needed a win to at least give this video something positive to end on. I was definitely more confident about this one though, because I really have the upper hand in this game. I've played Bloons Tower Defense 5 for almost 200 hours on Steam, so I have literally everything unlocked. The first thing that I activated there was the Dart Monkey Special Edition building. Now this gives us several powerful upgrades. The first one being that the tower and its upgrades are 5% cheaper. Then at level 2, you can increase the attack speed by 10%. At level 3, you can get a free dart monkey every 10 rounds and one to start with, but level 4 there was actually explosive darts, which means that from the very get-go, we'll be able to pop lead balloons. And I know I said that the 4th tier upgrade on the left side can also pop lead balloons, the Juggernaut, but just being able to pop leads without even having to worry about an upgrade, and just being able to pop leads with the dart monkey period, that's pretty amazing. But right here, I did deactivate all the premium upgrades I have, because those are a little too overpowered. I mean, 2 of them won't even have any effect in this challenge, but yeah, double cash would definitely be broken. But here you can see I have the Max Monkey Laboratory enabled. That takes a lot of grinding to earn. That's mostly why I have 200 hours on this game, so that's definitely fair game for Bloons Tower Defense 5. It's one of the things available. Now here I'm going to choose the longest map in the game, Express Shipping, just to make sure that things are as easy as possible. And let me just say, like, how much better this game looks than all the other ones. Even the 4th one, which was a huge upgrade in of itself, just did not look anything like this. And I know the Flash version of Bloons Tower Defense 5 doesn't quite look this clean, but it's pretty close in of itself. I mean, 2011 Flash, they did a really great job, and they just kept making the game even better. I know the 6th one is definitely the best game, but there's a reason why so many of us love this one. I mean, just when this came out, it was such a huge upgrade and such an awesome thing to have as a kid, man. I just don't mean to keep on rambling on about it, but we're far enough into the video where I figured if you watch this far, you'll probably listen to a minute of nostalgic rambling. But the one thing that is more difficult about this game is that it actually introduced a difficulty that's harder than hard mode itself, something called Impoppable mode, where you only get 1 life, the balloons are faster than they would be on hard mode, and things are more expensive than they would be on hard mode. So yeah, it is going to be a little bit more challenging. You also get 5 ZOMGs instead of 1 ZOMG on round 85, and of course this game is the first one to introduce that balloon, so this could end up being yet another failure, but I'm very confident things are going to be a lot different than they were before. The first thing that I did was just spamming down a bunch of unupgraded dart monkeys at the beginning of the track where the balloons loop around several times. On round 23, I did buy a tier 2 upgrade on the left path for one of the monkeys, which gives extra range just like in the 3rd game, but it also gives camo detection as well now. So this allowed the dart monkey to pop the camo balloon that comes out on round 24, which is now just a green camo balloon. Instead of being like it was in the previous games, that will just pop down into a blue camo and then a red camo, so we don't have to deal with a bunch of pinks coming out of it. Then by round 41, I had enough money saved up to afford the 4th tier upgrade that comes with the right path of the dart monkey, which is an upgrade that's actually new to this game called the Super Monkey Fan Club. This turns 10 dart monkeys into super monkeys for a short time, which easily destroyed the Moab that comes out on round 46, and for the first time, I finally made it past round 50 in this challenge as well. And then on round 60, the first BFB of the game was also absolutely destroyed. Round 63, which is notorious for its packed ceramics, was going down with no problem too. Even in the late rounds, I could tell that the dart monkeys were pretty much handling things all on their own. I didn't even have to use the Super Monkey Fan Club, and then if I chose to use the ability, everything was just getting destroyed that much faster. And then it was time for round 85, the last round of Impoppable. 5 ZOMGs stacked on top of each other. So far they seem to be no match. 3 of them are already gone, the 4th, and yeah, that is it right there. All of the ZOMGs have been annihilated, and everything else just had no chance. I mean, some of the balloons made it around for the third lap, but they're going to get destroyed there. I mean, obviously, a few balloons can't do much, and that's it. The hardest game mode in Bloons Tower Defense 5 was able to be quite easily defeated by Dart Monkeys, and it's pretty ironic that Bloons Tower Defense 1 and 5 share this one thing in common. In the 3 games in between, it was literally impossible for the Dart Monkey to single-handedly beat the game. And isn't it funny how that all works out?